All right, joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, PA announcer for the Carolina Hurricanes, getting ready for some playoff hockey. He is Wade Minter, joining us once again on Pirate Radio Live. Wade, good to see you. Good to talk with you. How you doing, man?
Good to be back. I'm doing well.
In preparation for this, you said you would get your playoff hair ready, and I got to say, looks great. So
It's true.
nice,
It's ready to go.
nice look for the postseason. Wade, just kind of recap it if you can. The regular season, I would say, viewing from afar, a roller coaster season, a streaky season. Win early, go on a skid, get hot 3/4 of the way through the season or so, and then kind of finish downwards a little bit. Is that fair to say with this Canes team?
I think that's exactly where I was going to go with it. It's been very up and down. They'll pull together large winning streaks where they score in 6, 7 goals a game, and then they'll go an equally long streak where they get one win out of 6 or 7, and it has been very up and down. I think that the consistency is certainly something that going into the playoffs will be a question. They certainly have the talent. By and large, everybody's healthy right now, and can you get in there and start showing the Canes team that's been bodying people, as opposed to the ones that are struggling against bad teams?
Wade, also one of the more interesting, I guess, trade deadlines we've seen from a team in any sport. I don't recall a team making a massive move and then almost immediately kind of backing out of that move. So,
Right.
how about that part of the season? That had to mess with the locker room and chemistry and all that.
Yeah, it did, and certainly an unusual situation where you have a team at the near the trade deadline. Thankfully, not right at it, swinging for the fences, bringing in an elite player, top 3 goal scorer in the league, and then it all kind of just going sideways. The player didn't necessarily look like he wanted to be here, and didn't actually talk like he wanted to be here. The rest of the locker room and kind of the product on the ice seemed to suffer. And, you ended up flipping your rental at the deadline for some draft picks and some players who ended up coming in and playing really well. But yes, very unusual situation. If you make a trade like that, you don't normally see that player gone 3 weeks later, right?
Yeah, mind-boggling, but hopefully things are good now as they have this unit heading into the playoffs. Wade, I've asked you a lot over the years about the Hurricanes' window, championship window. What's that window looking like right now? I mean, Aho and Svechnikov are older, but not old by any means. But where are the Hurricanes right now as a team, and in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? Like, yeah, how big is this postseason for them to go and try to win it all?
Yeah, I think that going into this season, kind of the consensus was it was going to be a bit of a down year for the Canes. They lost a lot of folks, several contracts kind of coming off the books at once. Some of the prospects were not quite ready to go, and I think I think everyone observing the league looked at this as kind of a transitional year for the Canes. Like maybe it's a bubble year for the playoffs. Um, and I think that the interesting thing is that the team has played above expectations on what looked to be kind of a that transitional year. I think the window is still very open for a cup contender for the next several years. They've got a lot of talent locked up long term. Um, we are going to be seeing the Alexander Nikishin experience here sometime soon, if not during the playoffs, then certainly next year. And I think that with the cap going up, there's a lot of room for Eric Tulsky and the management team to work. So this year, I think the expectations have been a little lower. Although I've seen several, analytics that show the Canes as the Cup favorite. I'm not sure if I believe that, but the team has talent, and if this year doesn't happen to be the year, I think they're still very, very well positioned for the next 4 or 5 years to be perennial contenders.
Wade Minter joining us. Wade, something I love about sports, and it also makes me feel old. But when I hear players that I watched in the 90s have kids playing today in sports, and I saw it a lot in the NCAA tournament. Last year, I'm a fringe hockey guy, but last year during the playoffs, I said, "Wait, Keith Kachuk has a kid. Well, he's got two
Two
kids
kids.
in the NHL." And then yesterday, I learned that Rod Brindamore had a hockey playing son, and pretty cool there to see another Brindamore with the Canes.
Yeah, Skylar Brindamore had a really good college career. He won a national championship at Quinnipiac a few years ago. Uh, Turned pro. He was in the, I think, Florida Panthers system for a couple years. Was signed as a AHL free agent by the Canes, sent to the Chicago Wolves this year. Has played very well. I think he might be their third leading scorer on the team. Uh, Big body, certainly knows the sport clearly. Coming from the Rod Brindamore as your dad, and it was really cool to see him get a chance to make his NHL debut. And depending on how things go and how he progresses, you could see him as a bottom six forward going forward. But at the very least, he got to put the jersey on, same basic jersey that his dad wore, and play in the NHL. So it's really cool to see.
Wade Minter will rest the pipes up for a couple of days and get ready for a big Sunday as the Canes begin the playoffs. And man, so thankful to my buddy Justin Bear, who dragged me along to a playoff game years ago, and one of the best sporting events I've been to. Got to see the Canes beat the Capitals 2-1. Got to see all-time goal scorer Alexander Ovechkin score a power play goal live, which is a cool moment. But Wade, you can attest to it. It doesn't get much better than playoff hockey in Raleigh. What can you put that atmosphere into words? What you'll be seeing there on Sunday?
Loud. That's the word. No, I mean we're very lucky here in Raleigh that the team has been as good as it has for the past 7 years. Because I actually did some research for a trivia question at our watch party last night, and since relocation in 1997, the Canes have made the playoffs 12 times, counting this season that they've clinched the playoffs, and seven of them have been in the last 7 years. So the playoffs were kind of few and far between, but the team still had a wonderful culture. But now that the playoffs are kind of a given, I think people really do ramp up the excitement. I think they really do ramp up the volume, the tailgating, the fun, all of that stuff that goes into making Lenovo Center a tough place to play in for the visitors and a great place to play in for the Canes. And if you've been to a regular season game, it's loud, the crowd's excited. And if you have not been to a playoff game, you will see that they're really holding back during the regular season. Playoffs are a whole other level.
Yeah, you can become like a victim of your own success. And being a Braves fan in the 90s, it was
Right.
like, I don't need to watch these games in July and August. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Of
Do you
course.
almost feel like it gets a little taken for granted now by Canes fans, the regular
I think
season?
so.
Yeah,
I think they do. And I think that's, on the whole, a positive for the
sure.
organization that the expectation has been raised, for a lot of the time when I was a fan, the expectation was, man, maybe we can sneak into that eighth playoff spot and actually get a couple playoff games. And, we had a couple good runs to conference finals, one Stanley Cup, but it was very feast or famine. You make it, to the conference finals or the Stanley Cup, or you don't make the playoffs at all. And during those times, just the hope of getting some postseason in hockey was enough to motivate the fan base. And that's not really a really high expectation for a team. Like make the playoffs once a decade,
Right.
but that was kind of where the level was. Now the expectation is your conference final contenders, your cup contenders, and everything else is kind of a warm up to that. So it's good for the team, good for the organization. But yeah, you can see that the fans have now over the past 7 years really been conditioned that the regular season is just the setup for the playoffs, and the playoffs are where you really want to be.
Wait, what do we need to know about the New Jersey Devils, the round one opponent?
Yeah, New Jersey had a really good start to the season. They've been, kind of second, third in the Metro for quite a while. They've suffered a lot of injuries. They've got their number one guy, Jack Hughes, is out. Dougie Hamilton might be coming back. Their primary goaltender was lost earlier this year. They're really riddled with injuries. Now they did split the season series with the Canes 2-2. They certainly have gotten wins against the Canes this year. And the Canes are by all sites healthy. So, I think you got a healthy Canes team that has, locked up this position for a while. They've been resting some guys going against a New Jersey Devils team that is, certainly playoff worthy, but injured. I think that, if the Canes play their game, they should be able to take care of business relatively quickly.
Wade had Ken Watlington, WNCT Channel 9 news anchor, on yesterday. He is a Caniac, and he said nothing is cooler than being credentialed to go to a Canes playoff game. And he said he sits up at the top, and he's a few seats down from Wade Minter, and
It's
he's
true.
hearing you in his ears rather than through the speakers, and says it's a cool deal. But yeah, apparently you got a nice spot at the top of the arena there.
Yeah, I before COVID, I sat between the penalty boxes, which was an amazing experience. I
Wow.
was right
Yeah.
there, center ice, on ice level. After COVID, the league, for whatever reason, they never gave us an explanation, kicked all of us PA folks who were still in the boxes upstairs. So yeah, I've got a very good view of everything from upstairs. I can see the entire ice, which is nice. I'm kind of the spotter for our production crew. If I see anything going on that they can't see, I'll let them know. And it's a lot of folks working together to make sure that we put on the best experience possible. But yeah, I have one volume when I'm doing the announcing, and that's loud. And so the people who are sitting like directly underneath me in the 300s, or the people to my left or right, I apologize. I am very loud.
Wade, we'll have a lot of folks from the East heading to Raleigh for playoff hockey, and I'll be hearing you through my television. So can't wait to hear you, and should be some fun hockey. Let's keep in touch, and hopefully we can do this again. Let's go on a long playoff run, and we can have more chats. But really appreciate you joining us today, Wade.
Absolutely. We're going to be on FanDuel Sports Network, ESPN Plus for the first round of the playoffs. If we make it to the second round and beyond, it'll be all national broadcasts. You can always check out the Canes Radio Network, stream online. But yeah, wherever you are in North Carolina, whether you're down east, whether you're kind of in the mountains, whether you're in the Triangle, Charlotte, we hope you're along for the ride, either in person or watching at home.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Wade. We'll talk again soon, man.
Thanks a bunch.